Welcome back to Dan Fix. Hi, I'm Dan. Most people see foam like this as nothing more than trash, but when you combine it with the right material, it can turn into something surprisingly strong, useful, and capable of solving expensive problems around your home for just a few dollars. And today, we're going to test that idea together. First, I break the foam into smaller pieces. Some sections snap apart easily by hand, while the larger parts are cut down with a utility knife. The pieces shouldn't be too large because the blender works much more efficiently when the foam is already partially broken down. Now the blades begin cutting through the material more evenly. If you look closely, the texture starts changing from large chunks into soft, lightweight particles. This detail matters more than most people realize. Smaller foam particles distribute more evenly inside concrete later, which helps reduce weak spots and prevents large empty gaps from forming. At this point, the foam almost looks fluffy, very soft, very light. And still, I haven't told you exactly what this will become yet. So let me ask you something. What do you think this material will turn into by the end of the video? A lightweight brick, a wall panel, or maybe some kind of insulation block? Leave your guess in the comments because the final result becomes surprisingly practical. But before we start mixing concrete, there's one more ingredient that makes a surprisingly big difference: PVA glue. Now I pour a small amount of glue into water and mix it thoroughly. At first glance, this may not look important, but this step actually changes how the internal particles bond together later. The glue helps improve adhesion between materials. It also helps reduce tiny air voids and porosity inside the finished concrete. That means the final structure becomes more stable and less brittle. This kind of additive is commonly used in smaller DIY repair projects because it helps materials hold together more effectively. And honestly, details like this are often what separate weak concrete from something much stronger. If the mixture contains too much sand, the final block may become weak because there isn't enough cement holding everything together. But too much cement also creates problems. Now we begin mixing the dry materials first. The shovel folds the cement and sand together repeatedly, back and forth, slowly at first, then faster as the color becomes more uniform. You can see the mixture gradually changing into a consistent light gray texture. At this point, the PVA solution gets added slowly, not all at once, a little at a time. At first, the mixture still feels too dry. Large clumps begin forming and the materials don't bond together smoothly yet. So now we add slightly more liquid. Immediately, the texture changes. The mixture becomes heavier, smoother, and easier to compress together. Now we prepare the molds. Before pouring any concrete inside, I brush a thin layer of waste oil onto the mold surfaces. This step acts like a release layer. It prevents the concrete from sticking too aggressively after curing and makes demolding much easier later. But there's an important detail here. Too much oil creates another problem. If oil pools inside the mold, the concrete surface can become weak or uneven in certain areas, so only a very thin coating is needed. Now we begin with version 1. This is the normal concrete block without foam. The mixture gets poured slowly into the mold. Then we compress it carefully to remove trapped air pockets. Now I use the trowel to smooth the surface. At this point, everything looks dense, heavy, and traditional, exactly what you would expect from normal concrete. But now comes the interesting version. The crushed foam gets added directly into the remaining concrete mixture, and immediately you can see the behavior changing. The mixture becomes lighter and much softer compared to normal concrete. Now we need to mix very carefully. The foam constantly wants to rise upward because it's so lightweight. So the mixture gets folded repeatedly from the bottom upward while pressing everything together slowly. If the foam isn't distributed evenly, empty voids can form inside the finished block. That creates weak spots later. So now we compress and fold the material again. And honestly, this stage feels very different from mixing standard concrete. The foam almost feels alive because every time pressure pushes it downward, the material slowly expands upward again. Now the lightweight mixture gets packed tightly into the second mold. Pressure is applied slowly to remove trapped gaps and improve internal bonding. By the way, where are you watching from today? And have you ever experimented with lightweight concrete before? There are so many different building methods around the world, and honestly, I always enjoy learning new ideas and techniques from other DIY enthusiasts. Now both molds are left alone to cure completely. 7 days later, it's finally time to compare the results. First, the normal concrete block goes onto the scale. 2.1 kilograms. Pretty solid, pretty heavy. Now let's test the foam concrete version. Only 1 kilogram. That's a huge difference. So now we test that too. Using a hammer, the normal concrete block gets struck repeatedly. The surface feels hard and solid, exactly as expected. Now let's do one final experiment. Both blocks go into water. The normal concrete sinks heavily downward because of its high density. Meanwhile, the foam concrete behaves differently because of all the trapped air distributed inside the structure. And this creates some very interesting possibilities for lightweight building projects. If you enjoyed this experiment, let me know where you're watching from and share your own building ideas or concrete tricks in the comments. I'd love to learn more from all of you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.